to another episode of the Centre Circle podcast. We're on episode 99.5. Got myself Keith hosting today, and I'm here with Isaac. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right, man. Not too bad. Not too bad. As per usual, we're going to run through the results of the Premier League over the weekend. Some lows for Liverpool, some lows for Southampton.
Oh, mate.
Indeed. And some highs for teams like Crystal Palace, Wolves and Aston Villa, who have come away from the weekend with some valuable victories. But let's get into it. Liverpool suffering their second defeat of the season, losing 3-2 away to Fulham today. What's your take on this game?
Do you know what? I'll be real with you, right? I had a feeling if we took the 3 points, it wasn't going to be plain sailing.
Right.
So I didn't think this was going to be a walk in the park by any stretch. I thought we'd have to... I did kind of think maybe we might steal 3 points, but we'd have to work for it, right? So I'm not entirely disheartened or disappointed at a 3-1 loss. I mean, the goal itself was kind of... And that's why the goal itself, I'm talking about McAllister's rocket.
Okay, so before you get into that, I'll give you a quick recap of what happened. So, slightly against the run of play, Alexis McAllister puts Liverpool 1-0 up with a really good strike from about 25 yards. And then Fulham hit back within 9 minutes. Ryan Sessegnon capitalises on some indifferent defending in the Liverpool defence. And then Alex Iwobi, 10 minutes later, again, capitalises on mistakes in the Liverpool defence. And then Muniz, who people are surprised started over Jimenez, gets the better of Virgil van Dijk to put Fulham 3-1 up going into half-time. And then Liverpool hit back with 18 minutes left for a Luis Diaz goal to make it 3-2. You was about to talk about McAllister's goal.
Yeah, I felt that was kind of against the run of play. We didn't look settled at all. Like there was no rhythm to our passing. We couldn't get... The ball just kept going back left to right across the defence, and then it would kind of somehow get into the midfield, and then Fulham would scrap and it would come straight back up to our defence. And then when we scored, I was like, oh, okay, wow. All right, maybe we might just... Maybe that's what we needed to settle the nerves, right? And it was just like that goal it did more for Fulham than it did for us.
Yeah, so I was of the same vein. Like, I don't think we was into the game that much. We got the goal. And sometimes with those kind of goals, when the team's been on top and they concede, they kind of go into their shell a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But as you said, had the total opposite effect on Fulham. And they just kind of came out like they scored 4 goals in 15 minutes. Sorry, 3 goals in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think we need to start looking at Virgil.
Oh, yeah, you go in there. You go.
Listen, man, no one is free of critique, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And as much of a pillar of a column of strength that he's been for us, a man mountain, probably one of the best defenders to ever play in the Premier League. These last few weeks, he's looked subpar. Like let's just talk about the Sessegnon goal.
Yeah.
Where the balls come off Curtis Jones' knee and he's in front of Sessegnon. He's got a yard on him. Step across him.
Yeah, the reaction
at the very least. Sessegnon's just blown by him. And then when he's tried to actually step across him, shrugged him off and got to the ball. That to me speaks about desire and will, right? And we're at that part of we're at the business end of the season now. We need 11 points. This is where we've got no other trophies, no other cups, no other games that we're playing in. It's just a league. So your margin of error or your room for complacency should be a lot smaller, right? In terms of like you should be more switched on. Like I know a lot of teams will go, oh, we're out of the cups, it's just a league. We're gonna and they would kind of like down tools or get complacent, which was the shout that was thrown at Liverpool. And Arne Slot said we weren't, but we were absolutely complacent today. Absolutely. There's no other word to describe it. We just looked. We looked like we got off the coach thinking it's only Fulham.
Yeah, I slightly agree with that as well. And considering the performance against Everton wasn't kind of a classic Liverpool performance, you think they'd go into this game with a little bit more oomph about the performance.
Yeah, a little bit more vigour and just be like, all right.
And it's just it's been a bit painful to see the drop off in performances, mainly because we know how well this particular team can play, and it's all started with the first leg at PSG. It's like I'd say since then we haven't really performed well in a game.
I'd say even before then. I'll be real with you. I think before then, and it started with a certain someone. And yeah, I know me and you've had our grievances, our differences about that, but I think from when he started hiding in games, our performance, I think the rest of the team were carrying him, and it was hiding that.
Okay, yeah, possible.
But then I think after the PSG game, I think everyone just went,
yeah,
this is
good. Yeah, we did remember the second half against Wolves. That was pretty dire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, that's granted. Slightly before PSG. I've seen some rumblings about Slot's lack of squad rotation being a factor into maybe the fatigue that's playing into some of the players. For me, I would say Gravenberch hasn't looked to patch on what he did before January. I think that's slightly down to fatigue. Same with McAllister as well. And I think if you've got 2 out of your 3 engine room players constantly playing and you're not willing to rotate them, I think it can.
You've got Endo sitting on the bench, use him.
Yeah,
you've got Chiesa on the bench, use him.
Elliot as well. So even with the front line, like before Wednesday, Jota hadn't scored for 10 games, but he was persistent, not actually playing really that well. Same with Luis Diaz, he was in and out. I know he got the goal today, but for the size of Liverpool's squad and the quality that they still have on the bench, I think his lack of rotation in the starting 11 has come back to bite him a little bit. And it might be because he doesn't really trust a lot of the players, which is fair, because like I said before, they're not his players. He's working with what he's got. I feel if this carries into next season,
I think that is a bit to not trust these players who have been part of a team built by your predecessor, and Klopp didn't build a poor team. He built
no, not at all.
But and that's evident by the fact that Slot's been able to come in and just take the same team and challenge for the title. Yeah. So, and most of these players have been there 3-4 years now. So they're all. It's not like a team of new transfers here and there, etc. So, I think that's a bit of a fault on Slot's part. To be, if that is the case of him not trusting those, squad players, the bench players, then I think that would be, let's just say, for instance, we didn't win the title. I mean, you could point a finger at that. Look, like you said, you had players on the bench that you weren't playing.
Yeah,
you weren't trusting. These players, the players in the starting 11, their form is all dipped, and you've left them in there.
Yeah. And everyone in the squad has won a trophy with the club. So it's not even like they don't know how to get over the line, etc. And it could be a case of like he's come from Holland, and he's even said like when you play teams in the bottom half in Holland, you don't really expect to lose. So he might just think, I can carry these set of players through, these core kind of 11, 12 players through, and see me to the end of the season. But we know the Premier League is very different.
Yeah, it's very different.
It's going to be a learning curve for him. So. Like I still expect us to win the league. It'll be like it'll be a bit of a miracle if we don't win the league.
I think the biggest upset in the Premier League history.
If we don't win the league from here, and I think he will learn from it. But just going back to the game, I think you've got to give Fulham credit. Like you said, they came out, they was off the back of a 2-1 defeat to Arsenal midweek. But they just came out and played really well. I think they could have had 2 penalties. I think Pereira was fouled by Kelleher
100%.
in that mix-up.
100%.
And then Van Dijk elbowing, I think it was Anderson. And like I said in the WhatsApp group, if Anderson goes down and then they go and review that,
that's a red card.
Red card and a penalty.
Yeah.
And I think that's where players have got to be a little bit more acute I think a more seasoned. I know Anderson's been in the league maybe 3-4 years now, but someone a little bit more with the
a bit switched on.
Yeah, a bit more switched on. Goes down, holds his head.
Yeah,
because he held his face, but stood up, like go down, roll around a little bit, and then
Van Dijk did the same thing when he ran into Muniz. He went down holding his face.
Yeah, this is it.
Bro, get up, man.
So yeah, I think Liverpool can find themselves pretty fortunate to get away with that. But yeah,
do you think that result does anything to for the next game? For our next game, do you think it slows us down? How do you think we approach the next game?
It shouldn't do.
How do you think we
I
have
think
to
if we
approach
had
the next game?
and obviously there's no easy fixtures in the Premier League, but I think if we had a harder game, so we got West Ham at home.
Yeah.
I think if it was a different fixture, so let's say it was like we got to go to Chelsea away before the end of the season, or it was like the Arsenal game at home. I think if it was a different fixture, it might get a bit tetchy, but I think you'd be happy going into West Ham at home after a defeat, and then knowing that you've got Leicester away.
Yeah.
After that, and I really want to get the 3 points against West Ham. Yep, but I want to see like a stark improvement in just a general team performance, because I think, like you said, there've been too many individual drop-offs since the start of March. And yeah, they've all, like, if you take the second goal, like Robertson was at fault 3 times in the space of like 20 seconds. He tried to play a crossfield ball, didn't challenge for the header, and then, okay, deflection, that happens, but that's 3 actions where you individually have costed the team a goal.
Do you know, I want to give a big shout out to Calvin Bassey. I think he had a solid game today. And I know sometimes there's been a bit of criticism against him and his abilities in as a central defender, but I think he showed that he's very capable. He looked like a top class centre back today.
Yeah, him and Robertson were on the left hand side.
Locked that left hand down, kept
Salah.
a certain someone quiet.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you saying, man? Last one on that for me. Talk to me about your boy, man.
Who's my boy?
It's been like 6 games.
Salah.
Bro,
it happens.
6 games in a row.
And like, this isn't the first time that Salah's had this. It's just usually it's just after January or after he's come back from AFCON. Like, this isn't the first time. It's just because there was such a high level up until his drop off, it's under the microscope like a lot more. Like, he's on course for the 2020, like 20 goals, 20 assists, etc. And everyone's like, you could do it easy. Might not. Obviously, he's got the 20 goals, but the assists don't. It might not come. And to be fair, he played like a couple cute passes today, etc. But it just didn't come off. Like, I'm still happy with Salah, innit? Like I say, I want all the performances to rise. He needs to rise to get back to the levels that we know of him, and he might turn it on, innit? Like, there's 7 games left. He could end up scoring like 10 goals before the end of the season, like knowing Salah, and then it's like, what was the fuss about?
It's the wrong time to be going quiet.
To be fair, I think it's the right time, because we've got the points cushion. This is the time when you want him to have a lull, because we should get over the line. Like, if it was a 1 point gap and he's not putting these, and he's putting these performances, then you'll be like, like, now you need to step up. But because we've got the cushion, it's not as detrimental to the team as I think other people might think it is. But we'll see. So yeah, Liverpool have got a game against West Ham next week, and Fulham, Fulham are away to Bournemouth. So let's go to one of yesterday's games. Game that had a bit of controversy. Everton won, Arsenal won. So Arsenal took the lead through a Leandro Trossard goal in the 34th minute after a bit of a mix-up between Branthwaite and I think it was Gay, in the middle of the park. Sterling benefited from their mix-up, passed out to Trossard. It was a good finish, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
Put them 1-0 up. Arsenal were pretty much in control of the game. 1-0 at half-time. A few subs are made, so Wanyeri goes off Saka at half time, and Martinelli comes on for Sterling, who I thought had a fairly decent first half, to be honest. But Arsenal came out the blocks a little bit shaky in the second half, and Everton capitalised on that, where Lewis Skelly brought down. Who did he bring down? Ndiaye, yeah, because he stepped up and took the penalty. And there's a bit of contention around this one because the foul clearly starts outside of the box, marginally carries on inside the box, and the referee awards a penalty.
Is it where it starts or where it ends, though?
So it's an interesting one because we've seen in the Premier League where a player has been kind of going on a mazy run, and he's dragged back. The ref plays advantage. They then lose the ball because they're being dragged back, and the foul isn't where, like, the last action was, where the foul starts, if that makes sense. And the referee like blows the whistle and like, right, go back 5-10 yards, whatever. So I thought it was a harsh penalty, to be honest. I don't know what you thought about that.
Do you know what? Right? It's going to sound a bit mad, but I think it was given because it was Lewis Skelly. I think
controversial.
I think his reputation may have preceded him in terms of the ref, and the fact that he can be a bit rash at times. And now where the VAR should have stepped in and overturned that, is at that point as well. The VAR should have come in and said, "All right, look, if you're gonna give it, it started outside the box, right?" But for them to just leave it and let it go, I don't know, man. I wouldn't. I think it was a very soft penalty.
Yeah.
If I'm the ref, I wouldn't have given it personally, but. You know, it's just the way the cookies crumbled. It's unfortunate, isn't it? But it is what it is. But I just to the point of Lewis Skelly, like, do you think there's it's a point now where Arteta may need to sit him down and be like, look, you need a little more discipline there?
It's tough because, like, he's got this red card stigma when, in fact, he only had one official red card because the other one was overturned. And I think on Saturday, he was just clumsy. Like, it wasn't like there's nothing malicious about it or anything. So I don't think he needs to have a talking to. I think the point that people have got to be aware of is, like, he's not a natural left back in it. Like, he's not playing in his position. So a lot of the actions that he's performing during the match, especially your defensive actions, I'm not saying that they're new to him, but it's like, just where to position your body, etc. So
I mean, okay, maybe not a conversation about discipline, but a conversation in general of just be like, you know, like what Slot did with Trent. I said, if you turn your body this way or whatever way, you're better positioned to deal with this threat, etc. I mean, I hear you. One official red card, but he's had a few incidents. I remember was it PSV they played in the Champions League, or was it final?
Yeah, earlier in the season.
Right, and I think this was where we got dragged at half time because he was on the yellow card early, and then he kept making a few rash challenges, and it's like, you can't keep doing that because you're going to build up a reputation for yourself as a hacker. And refs are going to pay extra attention to any time you do make some sort of challenge, or players might just try to play on the fact that I've tried to get past you, you've gone through me, or whatever it may be. I'm just going to play on it, etc., and try to get you booked or try to get you sent off. So I think that's where I was coming from, in the fact that maybe Arteta just needs a conversation to say, look, these are the things you got to be wary about. Maybe not be so aggressive. Maybe
it might be a case of just not having the desire to always win the ball. Like, it might be like an over impression to impress, if that makes sense. Where like, I'm caught out, but I've got to make sure I get there, etc. So it might just be like a small mindset tweak. etc. But kind of with his talent, I don't think there's too much to worry about with that. Obviously, he's most probably going to carry on playing left back for the rest of the season. So I guess in terms of Arsenal's lineup, obviously they've got Real Madrid on Tuesday. They started with Jorginho, Marino, Rice in midfield. I think a lot of people are a little bit surprised with that. I think a lot of people are surprised that Sterling played through the middle, essentially, swapping with Trossard. Do you think they were just kind of putting the majority of their eggs in the Champions League basket, considering they've got their injuries as well?
Yeah. I think that you could just tell by looking at that lineup. All eyes are on Tuesday. Getting some sort of result, so they want to keep their players as fresh as possible, or their key players anyway. And then also giving Kiwior a run out, because you don't want to start him. You don't want his first start to be Real Madrid.
Yeah, very true. He needs to be.
He needs to be match ready.
Yeah, no, definitely
match ready. I know Real Madrid are going through a bit of turmoil themselves, having lost to Valencia, but Champions League nights, they know how to turn it on. So Arsenal need to be ready.
Yeah, and to be fair, Kiwior had a fairly decent game, but the test that you have against Beto is going to be very different from the test that you're going to come across with Mbappe, Vinicius, Bellingham, Rodrigo, etc., with their interchangeable style. How do you think they will fare on Tuesday? It's at the Emirates. We've seen that Real Madrid can concede goals. They normally come out the other end and win the game, but they're not like Watership tight.
Objectively speaking, before the injuries, I would have given Arsenal a fighting chance.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was early in the season when we faced them, and they still hadn't got into their rhythm. But we showed that they're not impossible to beat.
Yeah,
and Arsenal, I'd consider if we can deal with them, full strength Arsenal shouldn't have too much of a problem to get a result, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's a win or a draw. After the injuries, I think they're going to struggle. I think Real Madrid now know each other. Mbappe is firing. If Vinicius can turn up and be Vinicius, not this melodramatic version of himself that we see sometimes, Bellingham's always going to do Bellingham. Their defense, they've conceded the second most amount of goals, I think, in La Liga this season.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
So, yeah, you're right. They will concede goals. It's just whether Arsenal can maintain enough of a challenge and not fall apart at the back themselves. So I'd hope. I mean, genuinely, as a football fan, I hope they get a result. As a Liverpool fan, I hope they get battered.
Yeah, I think it'd be good if they. I think a good result for them would be obviously taking a win back to the Bernabeu, but even like a 0-0 or a 1-0, like where they're still in the game.
Yeah.
Going to the because like you never know what can happen in it. Like stranger things have happened.
I mean, it'd be great for them if it was a repeat of the last time they played each other in the semi-final. Right, 0-0 at the was it Emirates or was it still Highbury that they were at? With the yellow kit, the yellow O2 kit. And Henry got the 1-0.
It would have been Highbury.
And then they went to the Bernabeu and got the 1-0. That would be fantastic. Yeah. Saka getting the 1-0 for them. I imagine that would be...
Yeah, and he had 45 minutes on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think that was to kind of get like minutes in his legs for the game. I think they'll need him for at least...
You think he starts?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, I think they'll need him for at least 60, 70 minutes on Tuesday. Like, if they give him 90, I'll be very surprised because that's going to be an intense game. They've got a home league game the game after. It's only a week. It's only a week's gap.
Yeah.
So, you'd rather give him the minutes in that game than any other. And then, like Everton put in a spirited performance against Liverpool. Came out losers, but, they take a point off a team that's been playing well in the Premier League. David Moyes, only 2 defeats since he's back in charge at Everton, and they're doing well. There was a graphic before the game, and they've got loads of people out of contract at the end of the season. So it'll be interesting going into the new stadium. What Moyes does in terms of the transfer market? Does he go with kind of he's tried and tested, like short a team that's kind of assured, doesn't not too much of an attacking flair to it. Yeah, it'd be interesting because I think what's his name? Who's the striker? Calvert-Lewin's out of contract. He's essentially been seen as their main guy. Like if he goes, they need to who they replace him with.
They need to get rid.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see what happens. Another one of Saturday's games involving Champions League contesting teams. Aston Villa 2, Nottingham Forest 1. A few changes here by Unai Emery. So Marlon came into the fray. Asensio, Onana was back. My boy Rodgers put him in my fantasy team last minute. Got me them points. But yeah, there were a few injuries to Nottingham Forest. So Chris Wood still out. So they kind of went with a false 9 with Morgan Gibbs-White in that hole, either side of Callum Hudson-Odoi and Ilanga. And Aston Villa took the lead through Morgan Rogers after a really good pass from Yuri Tillemans in the middle of the park. I was sceptical about him joining Aston Villa and the performance levels he'd put in, but he shut me up. He did.
What were the words you said? He's not the player that you want, that elevates you to the next level.
I didn't think he would be, but he's proved me wrong. He's putting in some really good performances. And then your boy, 2 minutes later, Marlon, after a nice assist from Ian Matson, puts Aston Villa 2-1 up. And I think this was one of Nottingham Forest's more abject first half performances. It took them a while to get going. But in the second half, they found their feet a little bit more.
Yeah.
Jota Silva gets a goal back.
Jota the Slaughter.
Makes it 2-1. And Nottingham Forest had some really good chances towards the end of this game.
Yeah.
Martinez was on fine form. There was a few kind of offside decisions. But this is the kind of victory that Aston Villa would want going into their Champions League
100%.
quarter-final
100%.
against PSG. Just because even if they do get knocked out by PSG, they're putting themselves in a really good position to qualify for the Champions League via the league positions. And you always kind of want to have that backup.
Do you know what? I think they might get a result in the first game, you know.
Really?
I think they might be able to nick something, whether it's a draw or a smash and grab.
That would be really good because obviously PSG won their league title
exactly
at the weekend.
Exactly, and you know, on a high, you know, it's easy for complacency to creep in.
Yeah, very much so.
You know, PSG, Emery's been there before. He knows a few of the players. Obviously, not, you know, most of the players he would have coached are not there no more, but, you know, he knows a few of them that are still there. So, who knows? I hope Villa get a result.
It would be good.
I would love to see them progress. You know, I think Villa are... I think mainly because I'm in the Rashford fan club and I want to see him do well.
Yeah, definitely.
I really want to see him do well. Just because, you know, I think he's a good player and also because I want United. I want more sufferation from Man United. So.
And this will be seen as a bit of an opportunity missed by Nottingham Forest with Arsenal dropping points.
Yeah.
Earlier in the day, they could have closed the gap behind them to 2 points for the race for second. And it's only a 5-point gap now. We don't know what could happen between now and the end of the season, especially if Arsenal do get deeper into the Champions League. They might kind of sacrifice league points, so to speak, for Champions League preference. But I think, like you say, Nottingham Forest can still be kind of pleased of how their season is going. Let's go to another one of Saturday's games. West Ham 2, Bournemouth 2. So Bournemouth were looking to fight back after a disappointing midweek home defeat to Ipswich, and they started well. Evan Nilsson come back from injury, been finding some good form.
Because he wasn't really scoring before the injury.
No, that like he had the odd goal here and there, but it wasn't not that many players in the prolific in the league this season. But he puts Bournemouth 1-0 up on the 38th minute, 1-0 at half time, and then Mr. Potter rings a few changes, and then Nicholas Fulkrug, whose signing has been not the most successful, I'd say, pops up with a really good header from a corner. It's one of those old school centre forward towering headers from a Ward-Prowse corner, no doubt. Puts West Ham back on level, and then 7 minutes later, my boy Jared Bowen from Mohamed Kudus cross headers West Ham 2-1 in front, and then the tie kind of changed a little bit because West Ham were, I wouldn't say they was in control, but they looked quite easy. You think they might see this out, but a long ball gets played into the box. Dean Howson wins the header at the back post. You've got Evan Nilsson to make it 2-2, his second goal of the game. What do you think about Bournemouth? Because like we've waxed lyrical quite a lot about Iraola, and obviously there's been a lot of media talk that if Tottenham were to fire the gun at and Postecoglou, Iraola would be kind of
one of their options. But I think there was also talk about Real Madrid as well.
Yes, they have
being linked to him. I think he's done really well. I think he's, when they got rid of Gary O'Neill, and everyone was like, "Oh, why would you do that? He's kept them up and he's got them playing." And it's like, it's like John would always say, "No, you've gotten us to a point. Now we're looking to go to that step further." They brought in Andoni Iraola, and he's done exactly that. He's kicked them on essentially.
I think he's a bit of a victim of his own success as well. Because
in what regard?
So obviously, under Eddie Howe, we wouldn't have said that Bournemouth were. I think they were still kind of an established Premier League team.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't have looked at them and said, right,
potential European.
Or even potentially top 10. Like, I thought there'd be that kind of 15th to 11th kind of just floating around there.
Team.
Not really going to get relegated, but not going to kind of make any waves up there. He came in after Gary O'Neill and catapulted them somewhat up the table more than we expected. And then even this season, like, he's kicked on. Like, they're 10th in the league now. They're only 8 points off fourth with 7 league games to go. I think at the start of the season, if you said, Bournemouth are going to be 8 points off a Champions League spot with 7 games to go, you'd be like, really? So do you think because he's performing so well, when he goes like 2 games without winning and one of those defeats is a home defeat to Ipswich, you're like, you should be doing better? Or is this just Bournemouth level?
No, I think he's not. I mean, he was a decent player in his own right. He played for Athletic Bilbao and played in Europe, and he's played at a very good level. So there was an expectation around him coming in, and with that expectation, they've performed. So I think a new benchmark has been set. So now he's being judged against that benchmark. I wouldn't say he's a victim of his own success. I would just say, right, you've now set a new benchmark. There are now new expectations, new levels, new devils, as they say, right? So I think the expectations are fair. I think the owners will now, it's now on the owners, because as a manager, I've come in and done what you've asked me to do, and that's improve the team.
Yeah.
So I've now improved the team. So now it's on you to give me better tools to work with. So go out into the market, get me better players, and then I'll keep improving, essentially.
Yeah.
Until I can't do it no more, or until the better offer comes up, right? So, yeah, I think he's done what he's said what they expected of him, and yeah, hopefully they can go out in the market and bring in better players. Now, what level of player they can attract, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe this season would have been a good showcase for the club itself, and the fact that it's Andoni Raiola as the manager, maybe they can bring some players in, and look at Unai Emery bringing in, the likes of Marco Asensio, Marlon, Rashford. Having a manager that has some sort of name about them should be able to attract some players. So hopefully,
yeah, that's true. And you look at that, like talk about the players they could attract. Like they brought in Howson. I know he was at Juventus, but there wasn't like a clamour for him. Like they got him like unopposed.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. And like he'd gone on to like he'd won his first Spanish cap playing for Bournemouth, which I'm not saying is unheard of, but like maybe 5 years ago, if you said, "Oh yeah, Bournemouth have got Spain starting centre back," you'd be like, "Oh, really? That's a bit weird."
Exactly.
And just identifying players like Kirkhead, like this is Kirkhead's second season. Even like Evan Nilsson, like those type of players. Maybe looking at the Brentford Brighton model, right? We're getting in those unrecognised players, bringing them in because obviously they got talent and they fit the data model. So it might be a case of we don't have to spend big, we just have to buy right, and that might be the thing that elevates them forward. So yeah, it'd be interesting, and it would. I don't want to say it'd be a shame if he got poached, because that's what you want in your career. Like we always talk about, kind of moving on to the next level, whether it be like players or coaches, etc. But I think for Bournemouth, it would be a bit of the kick of teeth. Like I identify this player to replace Gary Neal, and now this manager is being looked at to replace Tottenham's manager, potentially Real Madrid's manager.
I mean, if you're Andoni Iraola, do you want to go to Tottenham?
Oh no. Especially after the owner came out last week after their financials were released, and he said that we've got to be smart with our transfer decisions.
Yeah, and even and more than that, just the way he's handled the last few managers since Poch.
This is it.
Mourinho, Conte, Nottingham Forest manager.
Oh, Nuno. Yeah, I keep forgetting about Nuno.
Like, and now Ange.
Yeah.
I mean, Ange's his situation is of his own doing and his own stubbornness, but I don't think any decent manager wants to go to Tottenham unless there's a bit more autonomy and freedom around running the club, or
for the eventual payout when you get sacked.
Maybe that's why they're all going.
Very true. And then with West Ham, just like we kind of mentioned the other week, just petering out. I think they need to sign a few players to kick on. Ward-Prowse is good, but again, is he the elevation level type player? Souček, been a dependable servant, but is his time fading?
Who can they even attract at this point? I mean, is Potter a name brand manager?
I wouldn't say he's a name brand manager, but
has he? What I mean by that, has he built up enough of a reputation for players to go, oh yeah, I want to go and play under him? What's his style? What's he done? Has he developed players? Could you say, yeah, this player had their best period under him as a manager?
Matoma? Was Matoma's good season under him? I can't remember now. All these seasons going to blur. But I think he's still got a bit of stock from how well he did at Brighton. I think even with Chelsea, like you got to take that with a pinch of salt in it, because he went into like a mess of a situation.
Yeah.
And granted, not all the performances were good, and he kind of played a weird formation at time. And it's good to see that he's gone back to the tracksuits. Now he's at West Ham rather than the suits and polo necks.
No more fades and polo.
But with West Ham, you're a London club and you play in the Premier League, innit? So you can pay well and you've got the lure of London. So even to a certain degree, you're going to attract a certain type of player just off those two factors. Anyway, like look at Fulkrug. Fulkrug was played in the Champions League final last year, and then
that signing just that stinks of James Rodriguez to Real Madrid after the World Cup.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Look, you had a couple standout performances in an international tournament, and a football club come and said, "Oh, we'll have him, but you're over 30."
Yeah, the money they paid for him as well, like crazy.
What are you doing as a club? Like that just stinks of we're not trying to build, we're just trying to amble through the here and now.
Yeah, very much so. It's like we need a striker. Who's available? Oh, you're available. Yeah. Oh, you want to join us? Make it happen.
We'll have it.
Yeah, not too much due diligence there, but it is what it is. Another one of Saturday's games: Crystal Palace 2, Brighton Hove Albion 1. A bit of an interesting one, this. So, Mateta puts Crystal Palace 1-0 up in the 3rd minute with a fine strike. His first goal since returning back from injury. An assist by Eze. I like it when they show goals from like the different angles. You see it from behind, and this just flew into the net. And like you've been an advocate of kind of players getting the best out of them from a certain coach, and it's like I say with Glasner and Mateta, like it's been like
seems to work.
Yeah, just like a partnership, because there were times when Mateta was like, this guy cut out for the Premier League. Is he going to be able to do it? But yeah, since Gladden's come in, he's played really well, popping up with goals and assists all over the place. And then Danny Welbeck equalises for Brighton, gets on the end of a Minte cross, just sliding in from a few yards out. Really good goal. Typical Danny Welbeck, just being in the right place at the right time. Showing that age is not much. I'll say age, like he's only 33, but people are labeling him.
Still going though.
Labeling him as part of the old guard in the Premier League. Yeah. But we said like loads of time, like players are looking after themselves a lot more now. Yeah. So like if you see Welbeck get offered a new contract and play in the Premier League for another 2 years, don't be surprised because he'll be able to offer as much as he can. And then the boy Daniel Muniz, like I don't know where this goal scoring form has popped up from this defender, but another one in my fantasy team. So he gets onto the end of another Eze assist and puts Crystal Palace 2-1 up, and then the game just gets a little bit crazy. So in the 68th minute, Mateta goes off and Nketiah comes on. Kind of like for like substitution, normal. And then a minute later, Nketiah's booked for diving in the box. He thinks he should get a penalty. But you look at the replay, right decision, dive for simulation. And then just 10 minutes after coming on, he gets the second yellow, red card for a high foot. And then someone in one of my WhatsApp group was like, he's unlucky with that. Like the player's head was bent down. I was like, you don't really want to put your head that high, especially when you're on a yellow card.
Yeah.
So I think it was totally justifiable. And then in the 90th minute, Mark Gay sent off for a second yellow. He catches a Brighton player on the thigh, quite a high boot. Again, rightly so, second yellow. And then Paul Van Hecker, he gets sent off in the 96th minute for a second yellow. So yeah, a bit of a kamikaze end to that game. But Brighton had a few chances. Henderson in goal.
It's a proper derby, wasn't it? South Coast derby.
I don't like that this is called a derby.
Neither do I. I never understood why it was a derby. 30,
40 miles between the two. The M23 derby they call it. Yeah, I don't even. I'm sure there's some reason how this came about. If you know, let us know. But Dean Henderson pulled off a few saves in the final kind of 5-10 minutes of this game to keep the score at 2-1, and Crystal Palace come away with the victory. again, we said midweek that Crystal Palace will be really kicking themselves that they took so long to get going this season, because they've closed the gap on Brighton to 4 points. If you say 7th might get you a Champions League spot, sorry, not a Champions League, a European spot, whether it be the Europa League or Europa Conference. They're only 7 points off Newcastle. Granted, Newcastle got 2 games in hand at present time, but they could have been having like a real push for European places via the league. We know they've got the FA Cup semi-final to come. But yeah, Glasner showing his worth, and you got to give a bit of credit to like the owners of these clubs like Crystal Palace and Bournemouth, etc. Because we're probably for a bit of naivety of kind of the English media, etc. They're picking out managers that we don't know of in it. Like they're not names. Where back in the day, if a Premier League club hired a new manager, there's like a same kind of pool of managers they would go for, etc. They weren't really casting it out wide.
But they're not. They might not be names to us, but they're names.
Yeah. Because obviously Glasner won the Europa League with Frankfurt, so like I say he's not like unknown. But even when he came in, people are like, "Is he the right fit for the Premier League?"
And then that for me speaks to the whole ignorance mindset of being saying out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight. So he's not good enough because we don't know about him. But
100%.
But he's like you said, he's made the name for himself in Germany. He's up to some sort of standard, you know.
And winning a European trophy. He's not.
So why do you think he's not good enough? All of a sudden to manage Crystal Palace, he clearly knows what he's doing. So. Yeah, that stuff there it irks me sometimes.
It's like we know that football's a common language, isn't it?
Yeah,
and sometimes it comes across as like, well, what do they know about English football? It doesn't need to be English football. They just need to know about football. And it goes back to like I remember when De Zerbi was appointed, the Brighton manager. Souness was like, well, what does he know? Has he been reading up about Brighton? What does he know? He literally said, what does he know about Brighton after he'd been appointed? It's like, well, he knows a lot. And you got, remember, Graham, you went to Galatasaray in like 1995 or something to manage. What did you know about Galatasaray?
Right.
Because there was no internet, there was no data.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
you just rocked up and like, right, let me see what I can do out here kind of thing. So, like you say, it shows like the ignorance that people do.
It's insane, man.
Do have, which is crazy. Let's go to another one of today's games. And sad news for Southampton. Relegated back to the Championship at the first time of asking, while setting a record.
It's not set yet. They could still.
No, they're done. It's gone. No. The record is they've been relegated the earliest ever from a Premier League season.
Oh, I thought you was referring to the 11
not the points total.
Yeah.
So it could be a double record.
Ooh, mate.
But the first team to be relegated from the Premier League after 31 games played.
That is insane.
And like, I looked at the table and took it in. I was like, they played 31 games and they've got 10 points. Like, that's bad. Like, that's really bad. And they've got a few decent players, but it's just like, do you think the case of Russell Martin was too stubborn for too long? Or do you
know what it is, right? I was going to say I don't think he was, but I think it was definitely stubbornness. Your players weren't good enough, and you should have known that coming into the season. So, yeah, you might have wanted to try to play some football, but you also have to be real and have some sort of contingency plan as a just in case. So here's plan A. We want to go out and try and play football. However, just in case that doesn't work, this is what we're going to resort to. We're going to resort to shoring up the defense, locking up, shutting up shop, and making sure we limit as much damage as possible.
Yeah.
And he just refused. And yeah, I think the die was set by then, by the time they got rid of him.
Yeah.
That should have been look, this is a 1 month trial at best of trying to play football. If it doesn't work, we just want survival.
Yeah.
Right, and the owners really should have made that clear to him. We're going to give you some room to try, but we want to survive, right? And I'm pretty sure they did, but I think it should have been maybe a little more stern in terms of like, yeah, try your ideas, but just remember we want to survive. So if it's not working, figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, you've got till October. You're out the door. We're going to try and bring someone else in that can figure it out. That being said, I don't think the players are good enough whatsoever.
No, like if you look at like Ramsdale, this
is his fourth relegation now.
Yeah, like that's just
3 from the Prem and 1 at Chesterfield.
Yeah, it's really bad. And like they hired Juric, and obviously I think that has to be nothing more than we're gonna go down, plan for next season.
Yeah.
And if he hasn't come in and agreed to that, then I'd be very surprised, because they just look bad. So he's going back to today's game. Brennan Johnson puts Spurs 1-0 up after a good cross the box pass from Jed Spence, 1-0, and then Johnson capitalises on a James Maddison header into the 6-yard box, and it's a neat little flick past the goalkeeper to make it 2-1. Mateus Fernandes, make it 2-0. Then Mateus Fernandes makes it 2-1 in the 90th minute, and then Spurs get a penalty in the 96th minute. Matthias Tell, I think that's his first goal for them, or first Premier League goal since he's joined on loan in January, to make Tottenham 3-1 winners. And that takes a little bit of pressure off Ange Postecoglou, because prior to the game, they were on 34 points and only 2 points behind Wolves. And if Wolves had caught Spurs, and to be fair, they could do, there's only 5 points in it.
2 points ahead.
Yeah, like that is crazy.
Do you know what? What do you think of the Matisse Tell penalty and Brennan Johnson being on 2 goals?
You know me, give it to the hat-trick guy, innit? But yeah. I can kind of see with Tell, like you need that goal in it, like just be like, I finally got the monkey off my back. Or I know you're taking it as if you got 2 goals already.
Brother, give me the ball.
You're taking,
give me the ball.
Especially if you haven't.
And
got
if you're gonna take it, don't celebrate, please. Just put the ball back and get the ball. Let's go back, because you're doing me dirty, bro. You're doing me dirty. Like I hear what you're saying. Get the monkey off your back, but let's be honest. There's 7 games to go, bro.
You're not staying.
Yeah,
no matter, innit? Like go back to Bayern. Yeah. Let me get my hat-trick ball in it for Spurs. Yeah, it's a contentious one, but I understand. Tottenham. Do you pull the plug with Ange even if they win the Europa League?
100%.
Just be like, thanks, no thanks, didn't work.
100%. Thank you, but no thanks.
You go back to Greece or Australia and
thanks, but no thanks. You listen. Good guy, solid guy. You came in, you tried to instill this philosophy. Started off well. I don't want to say fell off a cliff, but it just didn't go well since then. Granted, you've had injuries, but you've not shown any kind of initiative or a way of like working around that, because the injuries are part and parcel of the game. Everyone has to deal with them, right? You've not kind of figured out a way to deal with that. Thanks, but we're gonna go in a different direction. But then the only problem is then who else?
Yeah, that was my point. I was like, I fully agree. I think he looks weathered. Like I put in the group chat after Thursday's defeat to Chelsea. I was like, he's getting snippy at the reporters again, just for them asking kind of the questions that they need to ask. And he's like, "Oh, you're trying to create a narrative, mate." It's like, no, like he's asking you why your team's poor, and you're the only one who can answer that. Like that's what it is. But yeah, like just go back to the conversation that we just said, you had about finding managers. We're saying who's out there, but there are managers out there, who could come in and do a job.
Yeah.
But it's up to Spurs and the board to find those. And you could say they haven't really done that. Before, I don't know who the manager was before Pochettino. I'll have a Google.
Before Poch?
Yeah, because I can say they've not identified an unknown, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they got Poch from Southampton. Obviously, Mourinho was always known. Same with Conte. Same with Nuno. Obviously, Ange was up the road in
Sherwood
in Scotland. Like, but he wasn't. Was he permanent? Did he get the permanent?
He wasn't perm. No, he was.
Oh yeah, he was. He gave Kane his debut, didn't he?
Yeah. It was Redknapp, Villas-Boas, Tim Sherwood, Poch.
So even with Villas-Boas, they got him off Chelsea and Porto.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe Tottenham need to change their model of the kind of manager that they go for. It's like they've gone for people who've done reasonably well elsewhere, and it's like, well, can you replicate that here? Where it might just be someone like a Thomas Frank or a Glasner, Iriola, that's not obscure to the football world, but it's obscure to the Premier League, and that might be the model that they need going forward. Yeah. So we'll see. Final one of Saturday's games: Ipswich 1, Wolves 2. Liam Delap with another goal, 2-2, put Ipswich 1-0 up in the 16th minute. And then I had this one on the multi-screen, and they're 1-0 up and they just stopped playing football. And it's just like, I know you want to kind of protect a lead, but you can't protect a lead from like 60 minutes. Back. Yeah, you know what I mean? 75 minutes, like. And Ipswich are not a bad footballing side. They're not the best team. Like, I've seen them play a couple of times this season. They haven't been great, but they've got the capability to play football. But when you're coming up against a team like Wolves, who have got undeniable talent in their team, like Gomez, etc., and he had a really good second half, it's just like, what are you doing? And then they couldn't hold on. Sarabia gets the equaliser in the 72nd minute, and then Strand Larsen gets the winner, 84th minute. Mm-hmm. I think that's his 10th Premier League goal this season.
11th, I think.
11th. Oh, the 11th. Yeah, we spoke about 10th. Yeah, which is really good for especially someone at Wolves. Apparently, he's got a better shot on target ratio than Haaland, which is not bad. And they play up front for Norway together. But Ipswich would have wanted to win this to close the gap on Wolves, but I think this kind of all but puts the nail in the coffin for
I agree. The 12 point gap, 7 games to go. So Ipswich's fixture list is insane. So I think the bottom 3 is pretty much set now. Yeah,
and it's a shame because you would like to see the teams that come up kind of give it a go, but collectively, they've got 47 points.
It's not good enough.
Like for 3 teams, that's really not.
But it also speaks to the chasm that's growing between the Prem and the Championship, and the TV rights money and the other revenues that are injected into these Premiership clubs. And if you're not in the Premiership club longer than 2 to 3 years, you don't really stand a fighting chance unless you've got a backers that are cash rich and are ready to inject funding into the club. So these clubs that go down and then that come up, they don't have the ability to attract players that are good enough. They don't have the ability to pay if they could attract or pay the players what they want to pay, because let's just say a club goes down and the player doesn't want to go down into the Championship, but he's on a certain wage. Can this club come up like Luton last year or Ipswich and pay this player what he was on last season? He's not going to take that. He's going to go somewhere else, right?
True.
And the parachute payments only last so long. So if you don't come straight back up,
you're stuck.
You're stuck.
Luton are fighting relegation.
Exactly.
In the Championship.
Exactly.
Like they got back-to-back promotions. They could be getting back-to-back relegation.
Yeah, so it's I personally think that's a conversation for another pod, but
yeah, for sure.
I think something needs to be done to close the gap or aid the clubs that are coming up in a way that is not unfair. It's not too much of an advantage, but it allows them to have some sort of competitive parity with the other clubs in the Premier League, the other more established clubs.
A 3-point advantage. They start on +3. Imagine that. That'd be hilarious. But yeah, if you look like Southampton, Russell Martin, he was, like we said, we touched on him. He was a bit stuck in his way. Cooper at Leicester, I always thought that was a bad appointment. I think that was another case of he's been in the Premier League, so let's get another Premier League manager rather than going out and doing a proper due diligence.
Yep.
And then even with the hiring of Van Nistelrooy, even worse appointment than Cooper.
Yeah.
Ipswich and McKenna, you can kind of shoot them some bail because McKenna's hasn't been like a first-team manager for that long. He's gone League One, Championship, Premier League, back-to-back. So he's kind of had an accelerated process in kind of getting to top-flight management. I think he would have benefited from being in the Championship for maybe 2 or 3 seasons before getting promoted.
Yeah. And
he might have been able to handle it. Obviously, that's not like a criticism of him.
Yeah.
So I'll just kind of look at like how the managers were for those teams that got promoted. And it might be a bit different next season. Like obviously you've got Burnley have just gone top in the Championship. You've got Scott Parker there with his miserly defence. He's been in the Premier League before, so you never know if they get if they get one of the automatics. I'm not saying that he will kind of break the mould, but he's got a little bit more experience. Chris Wilder's obviously back at Sheffield United. They're looking good to get promoted as well. Farker's at Leeds. He's been in the Premier League before. So that might help those teams. But you've also got to look at now, the quality in the Premier League across the board has jumped. Since they were last in the
league. Insane.
So
it's insane. Like just look at Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Look at Bournemouth. Look at Brentford. Palace, Brentford. Everyone's ability is now like you look at all of these clubs. They've all got like at least 6 or 7 internationals. Like, not just like internationals that get plucked in for friendlies and then dashed to the wayside. That when they're international,
like, look at
they're starters.
They got starters for Brazil.
They're international starters in their team. So you're coming up. I hear what you're saying, and with regard to Burnley and Chris Wilder at Sheffield United, but I don't think they have near enough of quality to survive. Yeah. It's I don't know. That chasm is getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So it could be farewell Ipswich soon. And then we'll just round off with to do today's last 2 games. It's crazy that we're talking about this like second from last, but there was a Manchester derby today.
Oh,
finished 0-0.
Snooze fest.
It was not the most exciting. I think the most excitement happened in the first like 20 seconds when Diaz brought down Garnacho. Could have been a penalty, but it was given a free kick and a yellow card. The only thing I would take from this, and like I've been pretty critical of Bruno Fernandes for a long time, but I thought today he was
solid.
He was excellent today.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like passing range, kind of tracking back, just
making things happen.
Yeah, like he made everything tick. And like I know people say, "Oh, that's what he does all the time." I'm like, nah, this is not the Bruno. I see Bruno popping up and getting a free kick, a penalty, or a moment of magic to like create an assist or something like that. He's like not consistently buzzing around and pulling strings like he was today.
Yeah,
and I think this is one of the best performances. I know it's only a 0-0 performance against a faltering Manchester City team, but I thought his performance was excellent today. On the flip side, Phil Foden, what's he got to do? What's Pep got to do? How do you get that? I don't want to say get that magic back because I don't want to put him to a level that I don't personally think he's reached, but the media seem to think he has. But he's not looking sharp, dangerous.
But let's be honest, it's all well and good to look good when the whole team is performing well.
Yeah.
When your whole team is controlling the game, when the other team can't do nothing but chase shadows for 90 minutes and get tired, it's easier to stand out. And then you're just popping up in little pockets and doing these little passes or little intricate passes or getting on the end of plays and putting the ball. It's easy to look fantastic.
Yeah.
But then when the overall team level drops and now you're there, everyone's still looking at you to be that little magician that you was. You know, it's gonna be.
It's hard, isn't it?
It's gonna be hard, and I need to say your level hasn't even dropped as well, along with the team. You know, so yeah, I think. Don't get me wrong. I was a fan of Phil Foden, and I say was because I'm not saying anything that we don't already know. He's not been a player that he was under the treble winning season, or even the 2 seasons before that.
Yeah.
But I think people are being a bit harsh and trying to point fingers at him and be like, why aren't you being that guy? Why aren't you? I don't think I don't think Pep ever come out and said, yeah, Phil's the star man, the magician, the talisman. I don't think he's ever come out and said, look, this is the player that I want to be. He's just tried to be who he was, a decent little player, right?
But I think that it goes back to, like I said, with Iriola and like the victim of your own success.
I think, yeah, this one's definitely a victim of success.
The hype train in this country, I think, is at a faster pace than any other country.
Yeah, of course.
Essentially. So even though he is performing well, Foden, he wasn't performing at a level that the media would tell you that he's performing at. Like, if you compare him to Bellingham, you would think that Foden's putting in Bellingham-esque performances, was putting in Bellingham-esque performances, but
I don't think he was.
He wasn't anywhere near doing what, and obviously Bellingham's at Real Madrid, doing it in the Champions League, doing it in the Liga, kind of got there like a duck to water kind of thing, where there's no scenario right now where you could pick up Phil Foden, put him in a Real Madrid team, and expect him to stand out in any way.
No way.
Shape or form.
No way.
And it's a bit, like I say, it's a bit of a shame because there's clearly talent there. He's a really good player, but I think he's just been hyped up too much. And then now he's kind of media-wise, and to be fair, he's still getting a bit of media protection because I'd say other than kind of podcast media, you're not really seeing mainstream media
singling him out
or criticising his performances.
No. They won't though.
No, of course not. Of course not. Kevin De Bruyne said he's leaving after 10 years at Manchester City. I think in another episode we're going to have a talk about where he ranks in the best ever centre midfielders in the Premier League. I've heard some really polarising opinions on this, which I was quite surprised about.
I saw a clip say he doesn't even make top 20.
That's clickbait, isn't it?
That's insanity.
Yeah, that's
insanity.
That's just nonsense. But yeah, I think we'll get into that at a future date. Pep, Manchester City, they could qualify for the Champions League via the league. They could still win the FA Cup. But again, I still think they need an overhaul. Like they had De Bruyne, Silva, Kovacic and Gundogan starting in their kind of midfield area, all 30 plus. All of
the no legs.
And it's funny we said earlier, like Danny Welbeck's he's not old at 33, but these guys looked old running around that midfield like it wasn't the fluid Manchester City that we're used to.
Nope.
So it'd be interesting to see how Pep rejuvenates this team in the summer. And then Man United, again, all their eggs are in the Champions League, the Europa League basket. And Yeah, I think if Amrin wins the Europa League, will take a bit of like weight off his shoulders. A little bit. I think if he gets knocked out, because like I say, the teams left in the Europa League are not that great. So if he gets knocked out the Europa League, even by Tottenham, and I'm including them in those teams that are not that great that are left in the competition, it'd be a case of like a missed opportunity for a club the stature of Manchester United. Granted, the performances haven't been there this season, but them and Tottenham are the favourites, so you'd expect one of them to get to the final at least.
I think winning it could it could actually be quite detrimental for Man United.
Yeah, and I've said that because you don't want them in the Champions League next year.
And on top of that, it just papers over cracks. You're just sticking papers over big holes in the wall. Someone puts a fist through the wall, and then you just go, just put a piece of paper, A4 paper on it. That's what winning the Europa League is for Man United.
Yeah, they're not like financially. Ineos and the Glazers would be extremely happy.
Of course.
But player-wise, you've got to think, right, we need a higher caliber of players. And he's already complained about not having enough time to train with the players.
Yeah.
So, obviously, all Man United fans would want to win it. They'd want to win it, etc. But like you say, it could hinder them more than not winning it. But let's see. And then the final one of today's games was Brentford 0, Chelsea 0. I didn't see any of this. I saw that Cole Palmer didn't start. I just wanted to check if he was on the bench or if he was unwell. Cole Palmer, no, he's on the bench. So maybe he was dropped after some indifferences performances since the start of the year. Dewsbury Hall got a rare start in the Premier League, and Kunku up top. Their centre back pairing was Aguero and Chalobah. We know that centre back pairing is always chopping and changing. But yeah, I don't know if you saw any highlights on this game.
To be honest, I was too busy watching the Liverpool game. I didn't check the highlights, but I mean, this stagnation from Chelsea, it speaks to experience as well. It's all well and
players and manager.
I think across the board, it's all well and good having a young team. I know Strasbourg in France are doing quite well at the moment with the average age of their squad being 21, but it doesn't work for everyone, clearly. And I think in the Premier League, to try that in the Prem, it's a bit ambitious. And I know they've got a lot of stuff going on upstairs as well with trying to move money around, all the creative accounting that's going on upstairs. But on the pitch itself, they needed experience. They massively. You could see that with just having Thiago Silva in the squad.
Yeah,
and then letting him go and not replacing him with good, proper, aged experience. I think that was a massive oversight, and it's coming through now in the season. This is the business end of the season where you need the leaders in the dressing room to be stepping up and saying, "Look, we still need to be fighting for something. We still need to be putting our best foot forward, and these are the games that they should be winning, really."
Yeah.
The amount of talent in their squad, these are the games they should be winning. But then it also speaks to the general level of the Premier League itself in these other clubs. When teams like Brentford are coming and giving Chelsea problems, So
yeah, it's quite interesting. Like Brentford started the season really well at home. They couldn't buy an away win, and they haven't won at home in like 7 odd games now. Chelsea haven't won away from home in like 5 or 6 games. It's quite interesting how things have kind of switched for those teams. So yeah, that rounds up the fixtures that have taken place so far this weekend. Newcastle and Leicester go head to head tomorrow night in the Monday night game. I don't see anything but a Newcastle victory.
Yeah.
In that game, and then midweek we've got the European fixtures back. So on Tuesday, Arsenal host Real Madrid. In the first leg, Bayern Munich welcome Inter Milan. I think Inter Milan might nick that one. I know Bayern are doing quite well domestically, but I think Inter Milan might come through that two-legged affair on top. And then
the only reason I'd be inclined to agree with you is because of the injuries to Bayern.
Yeah, Musiala went out on the weekend.
Hamstring.
Yeah.
I know Ito, the defender, he was out for ages, came back out again. Apparently the rest of his season's done. I think Upamecano was injured as well.
Yeah, I think I saw him on a graphic.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, fair.
I think I'd probably agree that.
Yep. And then on Wednesday, Barcelona welcome Borussia Dortmund. I'd say Barca favourite for that over 2 legs. And PSG v Villa. I'd say PSG would start as the bookies' favourites. But as we spoke earlier, we'd like to see Villa giving it a go. And then in the Europa League, Tottenham welcome Eintracht Frankfurt. Rangers welcome Athletic Club. Man United go away to Lyon, and Lazio are at Bodo Glimt. And in the Conference League, Chelsea go to Legia Warsaw. And there are 3 other games with 3 teams whose names I can't pronounce, so I'm not going to attempt. But yes, thank you very much again for joining us. Thank you for all the likes, shares, comments, subscriptions. Please keep it up. And we will be back next week with a big special episode for us. So yeah, stay tuned. Peace.
Peace.